Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
And a very good evening to you and a warm welcome to Newsline Live. And we are broadcasting, as we almost always do, from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. Now then, Sri Lanka's government appears to be muddle-headed in its resolution on matters economic. Let's find out if that's true. And our guest this evening is Dr. Ganeshamoorthy, who is an economist attached to the University of Colombo. Very good evening to you, Dr. Ganeshamoorthy.
Good evening.
Is it true? Is the Sri Lankan government somewhat muddle-headed in its approach to economic resolution?
Yes, exactly. Because while other countries in the region have seen positive growth after COVID-19, they have recovered in a very, very positive manner, while Sri Lanka is reporting a contraction. I can give you some figures.
Please
For example,
I'm really excited to hear this, because
yes,
the growth rate on average in South Asia is 6.5%.
Yeah.
But tell us the detail.
When you look at the 2022 growth forecast, the highest growth in the South Asian region reported in Maldives will be reported in Maldives by 8.2%, followed by Bangladesh 7.2%, India 7.0%, Pakistan 6.0%, Nepal 5.8%, Bhutan 4.5%, and the only country which reported negative growth rate of 8.8% according to the Asian Development Bank and 9.2% according to the World Bank for 2022. So
that's Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka.
But how do we find ourselves in this sad, pathetic situation when our neighbors are doing pretty well? The average growth rate 6.5%.
Exactly. It's not about the international slowing down or a regional issue. It's an internal issue, I would say.
So it's not because the Americans are buying far less from Sri Lanka than
not at all.
from Bangladesh?
Not at all. Not at all.
So what's Bangladesh doing right and what's Sri Lanka doing wrong?
Well, Bangladesh invited foreign direct investment during the last 10-15 years. Massive amounts. So does India. But our country, after the war, they were talking about 3 billion, 4 billion US dollar worth of foreign investment per year and never been materialized. And
why?
There are so many reasons. The main reason is the institutional weaknesses and also political, issues.
You're being nice and polite, Dr. Ganeshamoorthy. Tell us, call it the way you see it.
Well, when a foreign direct investor comes here, they ask for a commission. Simply.
Yes. Graft.
Yeah, exactly.
Corruption.
Corruption.
Graft, this.
Yes. And
deal only with me, don't deal with anybody else.
Something like that, and also they will ask what is my percentage. Directly they will ask.
For doing nothing.
Doing nothing.
For being
Yes.
for being the representative of the people wherever.
Yeah. It's not a secret. It is an open secret. Everybody knows.
So, ladies and gentlemen, when we come to an election, you need to remember things like what Dr. Ganeshamoorthy is saying. The reason we are having such a difficult time, so difficult a time, with a negative economic growth, one of the major attributes is this: corruption. Terrible, terrible. So, honestly, so it's true, we need to address that first.
Correct. Now, this happened because of the weakness of the institutions.
Right.
Institutions are there, but they should be function efficiently. If a country with institutions functioning efficiently, you don't have to invite foreign direct investors. They will come and invest in your country if you can produce for the international market competitively. So countries are basically, now one may ask, is Bangladesh less corrupted than us? I mean, it's a question one might ask.
Yeah,
maybe.
Maybe. But still, it's their growth rate is much higher than us.
And also, the institutional setup is easy for the establishment of foreign direct investors.
So the ease of doing business?
Ease of doing business. And also, most importantly, the cost of labor. And one might ask why Sri Lankan labor cost is higher.
Yes.
Bangladesh cost is lower. So most investors will go to Bangladesh.
But why is that? How does that happen?
Sri Lankan labor has become expensive, but the quality of the Sri Lankan labor is far more ahead than the Bangladesh.
Oh, really?
Exactly. Because in order to train, for example, a machine operator in Bangladesh, it takes 3 months.
Right.
In Sri Lanka, 3 weeks you can, train an employee.
So our people are smarter?
Our people are smarter. If
They're
they
more
are
adaptable.
If they are given a chance, proper training and proper guidance and proper incentive, they will work.
Such a pity. Such a pity. Now then, I want to ask you this question. In terms of the economy, we have one former governor who says that there was no need to default. What's your take? As an economist, what's your take?
Very wrong, interpretation, I would say. This crisis was looming over for a period of time, long period of time.
Yeah.
And by 2020,
January 2020,
if they decided to go for a, organized default or a negotiated default, and also approach the IMF for a settlement or a bailout package, this problem or this current issue, this type of a aggravated issue could have been easily avoided.
That's absolutely incredible. What of inflation?
Well,
It's Sri Lanka's inflation.
Sri Lanka's inflation, the government basically announced it in the recent time, last month. Inflation rate has come down as an achievement But if you take the inflation rate for this year, January this year, the headline inflation was only 14.2%.
14.2, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in September, it's 70%. 70%. From 14 to 70% rise. But last month, October, it came down up to 66%, up to certain extent. But it has gone to a higher percentage, from 14 to 70%, mean it's how many falls increase. And the most important pathetic thing is that the food inflation, prices.
That was going to be my next point. What about food inflation?
That was in Jan 2022, it was 25%. In September, 95%.
My goodness me.
So the food prices have doubled during this period. During the period of 9 months, food prices have been doubled. So this has been causing more damages to the economy, especially in the lower spectrum of the people.
So, Dr. Ganeshamoorthy, which is the option that we ought to be following? Is it the sort of US Biden, UK Sunak model, which is to grow the economy, spur the economy on, create more jobs and job opportunities, and then come back and sort the other things out? Or is it like Sri Lanka, contracting the economy from around the 80 plus billion to what is it now, about 73.7 billion?
Well, the priorities are different.
Okay.
In those countries, their priority is to take the economy from a slowing economy, stop that slowing down, and rebound the economy with some government's intervention, like bailout packages and also incentive packages. Bailout packages for the ailing businesses, and incentive packages for the consumers of the lower income people, to make them spend money and consume. So when they spend money and consume, and that will spur the total demand of the economy, and that will increase production, and the economy will be rebound. That is the model they are basically following. But the Sri Lankan model, even if the government wanted to follow that model, the major issue is government revenue. Government doesn't have money. That issue has been a serious issue because the government on the one hand does not have enough money to pay for the salaries even, and no money to make other expenditures and repay the loans. And income generating capacity of the economy is already shrunk because of this economic collapse and also economic downturn. The economy, from the economy, the taxable capacity is also shrunk. And if the government try to increase taxes, that will further lead to shrinking of the economy. So that is what the government wanted to do, because the inflation rates, already we have seen that inflation was extremely high.
Indeed.
To stabilize the economy, the government think that sacrificing growth is okay. We have to stabilize the economy.
But 62% of our population, working population, are daily waged. If you contract the economy anymore, these people who are already poor will be even poorer.
Exactly. Not even the poor people getting poorer. The middle income will fall into the poor category.
So there will be no middle
income at all. They will be all will fall into the poor category. So increasing more than half of the people in need for some kind of a government support. And
what a terrible tragedy for a country that is so proud of its literacy rate and its of its quality of workers and professionals and so on. I think apart from the UK, the next place we got more accountants is from Sri Lanka.
Correct. But those accountants are not working within Sri Lanka. All are migrated.
Indeed.
And the government is encouraging the migration of.
Because we've got so dependent on migrant labor remittances.
We need dollars, so therefore we are exporting.
But isn't this one of the easiest ones? What should the policy be for the dollar earning strategy? What should it be, Dr. Ganeshamoorthy?
Well, there is no easy and quick solution for that. There should be a long or medium term, strategy for that purpose. Where we went wrong was we had these giant projects, investment projects, loan funded investment projects, and those projects should have brought the dollar flows into the country or tradable items in economic jargon. Not rupees.
So the Southern Expressway is getting rupees, but that's no point.
No point, because we need dollar, because we have taken money in dollars or even yuan.
So unless the Chinese want to accept our rupees, which they won't.
So therefore, whatever projects we are implementing here should bring dollar into the country. Then it won't be a problem, because I'm not against taking loan and put these huge projects. A country, when a country develops, we need these highways, airports, ports, and all these things are necessary. But unfortunately, the big projects, these were, any government project, there should be an impact assessment, right? Whether it is feasible or not. And they say everything has been done properly. Then everything is done properly. They should have ensure dollar flow, not only 1 year, continuous flow of dollar in order to repay the loan, and the country will get a growth path.
So what you're saying, Dr. Ganeshamoorthy, is that projects like, let's say, Muddle Airport, the world's loneliest international airport, we should have had a proper feasibility study done there. And if it had been done, and if it was a real feasibility study, not some fixed nonsense, then today we shouldn't be complaining about Muddle Airport.
Not at all. That's how other countries are doing. So whenever they go for investment projects, they really looked into it. And port, another way, another investment, huge investment. When you build a port, you're not just building a port. It's a holistic project. Not only the port, there's around the port there are other developments which are required. Now internationally, if you look at other countries, Rotterdam is very famous for a port city. Like it's a complete city based on the port.
Yeah.
Yes, and in Asia you can see Hong Kong or Thailand, and these are port cities, and their ports are having all the facilities around.
On that note, let's go for a quick break and come right back, and we're in conversation with Dr. Ganeshamoorthy, economist from the University of Colombo. See you on the other side.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Anko ege araksita iti ginipetti. Surya ginipetti.
Police obstruct activities at golf face on the day to remember the Aragalaya. IUSF protest across Sri Lanka demanding the release of Basanta and Siridhamma Thero. CID uncovers smuggling ring in Oman, where Sri Lankan women are sold to the highest bidder.
ලස්සන ගෑල්ලමයි තියලා එක එක ගෑල්ලමයි මුදලට අලෙවි කර. මේක ජාවාරමක් හැටියට තමයි කරගෙන යන්නේ.
ඒව එක සාමාන්‍ය දෙයක් කියලා ඕව ගණන් ගන්න එපා. මෙහි රට ජොබ් එකකට එනවා නම් ඒ හැම දෙයකටම හුරු වෙන්න ඕනේ.
Money lost from the sugar tax scam to be recovered as income tax.
මිලියන 6කට වැඩි ප්‍රමාණයක් රජය කැප කළ බදු ප්‍රමාණයෙන් මේ ආයතනයට ලබා ගැනීමේ අවස්ථාව සැලසීලා තියෙනවා කියලා කියනවා. මේ ලොතරැයියක් ඇදුනවා එකක්.
SJB MP Harsha De Silva is in possession of an undisclosed IMF document.
මම මේක සභාගත කරන්නේ නැහැ. සභාගත කරන්නේ නැත්තේ මොකද? සභාගත කරොත් කියයි මේ සංවේදී කාරණා එළියට ගියා කියලා.
Pakistan marched into the finals of the T20 World Cup with a 7-wicket win over New Zealand.
And that is it. Shan Masood hits the winning runs and Pakistan are...
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Anko ege araksita iti ginipetti. Surya ginipetti.
25% for 2 months, 25.5% for 4 months. Valuable FD. Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat.
And welcome back to Newsline Live. I'm in conversation with Dr. Ganeshamoorthy, economist from the University of Colombo's Economics Department. Dr. Ganeshamoorthy, back in 2020, the ratings agencies said, warning. The lone elephant also said, go to the IMF, negotiated settlement, so on. But the way we are going on now with this sort of muddle-headed theories and non-theories and so on, I'm thinking to myself that within 6 months, if something proper isn't done, the dollar will trade at about 500. Is that a possibility?
Could not guess, because
what's the trend?
The trend has been all that depends on the dollar inflow. So the economy's one hope is now is the tourism sector. So they think that the
42,000 foreign passport holders came to Sri Lanka in October.
And they expect that it is going to go up. And they expect that
2020, it was 2018, it was 153,000.
Exactly. So they expect a rebound in the tourism sector, and also they expect that the repatriation of the remittances, and the remittances also they expect a rise in this year, and with that they expect to meet this trade deficit into cushion the trade deficit into a significant way. So therefore, they also expect some inflows from the friendly countries. IMF has said that they have to come back with a
A
repayment plan. And the
We
repayment
need an action plan.
Yeah, and the repayment plan will not be ready by by this December.
The governor
It's
said
already
that he's hopeful it might be done by the end of this year.
not possible, because it's already delayed. So it will be in March next year. So
what's the straight answer? Is this dollar going to end up closer to the 500 mark?
I don't think 500 anyway, but
will it breach the 400?
Possible. That is possible. Because
if it goes at 500, the fertilizer will then be 500,000 rupees a ton. It's now 200,000. That's for the rice, the urea. And chicken will go beyond 1,500 a kilo, and petrol and diesel will be up at least by 50%.
Yeah,
I don't mean to be alarmist, but
I don't want to be a pessimist also.
Right.
Yes, when we know that the rate has been the exchange rate has been somewhat put on hold. If you allow that to float really, that may shoot up a little bit. But the speculation is the most important thing, right? The speculators, when you allow this to float, and the speculation will happen in a big way, leading to exchange rate depreciation in the unprecedented way.
I have two very quick. One's a statement from one of our viewing public. So thank you for taking the time. So many, like the good doctor, have come and explained things about our country's downfall. Why can't the government get these people to do something rather than having dumbos? I mean, that's a question that you can't answer really, but that's a statement. Now then, next question. Well, it's a little story. Someone's telling us, so we've got information that in some of these schools, the teachers are getting together, and apart from their teaching duties, they're getting together with well-wishers and providing the children with a meal. Very gallant indeed. Sri Lanka is very good at this giving business. But we have a report here that some of these children are only eating half the packet, and on inquiry said that they're taking the other half to their home to give their mum. That, to me, is the state of affairs with our food inflation. So when we have a situation like that, Dr. Ganeshamoorthy, we also then have this business of the government trying to tax exporters. Is that normal in your expertise?
My past research and also surveys, right? Export taxes have been phased out most of the time, because with this export promotion strategies and also liberalization efforts, normally they completely remove taxes, and instead some quantitative restrictions will be there on the exports, and mainly the taxes are imposed on the imports. So export tax, if there are any, and that they are levied for the sole purpose of revenue gathering. And Sri Lanka may say that during the colonial time and thereafter, the tea exports were taxed, and other export commodities were taxed. These were taxed because of the revenue purpose only. Now also, if there is a tax being imposed on the exports, and that is only for the revenue purpose.
So don't you think it will serve better purpose if the government encouraged exporters, and when they brought the money back, they got a rebate in rupees? That's been done in other countries.
Exactly. But now what we need is more exports, not to discourage exports.
But this is a funny way of encouraging. You're asking them to pay 30% tax.
No country in this way can develop an export sector. So I don't know who is the person who, or
the mastermind.
Mastermind, we don't know. But with our little knowledge we gathered from throughout this academic career, by taxing exports, I don't see any rationale or any common rationale to increase exports.
There are lots of masterminds that are missing, as far as I know. They're still looking for the mastermind of the Easter bombings. That's so many years now. Now this is mastermind of economic matters, the mastermind behind this export tax. As an economist, would you advise the government to bin that straight away, that idea?
Well, that is not a good way of gathering government revenue anyway. Now, when your economy flourish and exports are going tremendously up, and then imposing a small percentage of tax would be reasonable. But when the economy is shrunk and then exports are basically facing with greater difficulties to access market and also price increases, this is not the time to increase a tax on exports, and that will kill the export sector altogether. So the government, I don't think that it's not a prudent policy to follow. Now this is the time where you need to help and encourage the exporters by various other means, and this is going to discourage them, and some will stop exporting.
And is exporting out of Sri Lanka very expensive when you consider the region?
Yes, indeed. In order to, now export tax is something different, but when you try to export something from Sri Lanka, there are other costs, the other varieties of cost, many costs, and the cost in terms of time, in terms of money, these two. These are very expensive procedures. And there are so many institutions involved in this export procedures in order to get the approvals, in order to get the certification and gradings, etc., which will be costly. So there was other countries are following a single window policy where the exporters directly go to a particular authority and hand over their papers, and the papers are processed and you get the permit. And here it is not such easy to get this process done. It is costly. So what we should do is reduce the time, reduce the cost, and encourage the exporters to do
make
their
it
business.
Easier for them to do business.
Make it easier. So that
and cheaper.
Exactly. It should be cheaper. Otherwise, you cannot compete with the international competitors.
Already they're now tied, one hand tied behind their back because 30%. Finally, we've got about 3 minutes more, just under 3 minutes. Tell the government of Sri Lanka, what should their dollar earning strategy be?
Well, help the export sector. There are niche markets. Don't look at don't kill the goose that lays the golden egg. Don't tax too much. This is not the time. This is not the time to tighten the belt of the people. Help them because they are powerless and poor. And exporters, they have to export, and then only you can earn dollar and come out from this crisis. Don't send the valued human resources to foreign countries and make a living out of their dollar earnings. This is going to lead Sri Lanka as a country. In future, we may be importing them from foreign countries.
My goodness, it'll turn round on its head then. What about the poverty line, very quickly? What about the poverty line?
Well,
international poverty line, $3.6 a day.
International poverty line, $3.6 a day. The number has increased. Indeed, 2020, 12.7% of the population below this $3.6 per day poverty line.
That was in 2020.
2020, and in 2022, that has increased 25.6%. Doubled. And
so
this,
watch out.
And this 25.6% was the closer percentage we had in 2009.
My goodness, we've gone backwards. Dr. Ganeshamoorthy, thank you very much for being on Newsline Live. We much appreciate your commentary and your statistics and your facts. Thank you. We must meet again.
My pleasure.
Discuss other things. It's now time for that wonderful other program, the Primetime News from the English News First Primetime News team. Take care and have a great evening, and as always, God bless you all.